So we have just talked about the importance of adaptability, of trust, of diversity in these research ecosystems to ensure their resilience from different vantage points. Resilience is not just about the present, as GESDA is working on a daily basis. It's also about preparing for what is coming. And what is coming is a lot of breakthroughs in science and technology, which have been synthesized, summarized through the academic voices, the individual voices of 2,300 scientists and their respective institutions into the GESDA Science Breakthrough Radar. The Breakthrough Radar looks ahead to the next 5, 10, 25 years to identify the scientific developments that are most likely to shape our world and to try to help leaders like you to anticipate these breakthroughs before they become a reality and be able to act upon them by already starting the conversations needed so that they can be translated into a shared benefit. So we will conclude this plenary session, but stay seated because we will, and stay connected, because we will have the official launch session of GESDA's annual Science Breakthrough Radar. So in just a moment, Michael Hengartner, who's the president of the ETH board and chair of GESDA's academic forum, will walk us through this year's highlights of the radar together with some of the contributing scientists. But before they join us on stage, here is a short video that will welcome them on stage. Thank you very much.
Breakthroughs in science and technology are transforming our world. And as they continue, what does this mean for our future? Through in-depth conversations with scientists about their cutting-edge research, GESDA acts to anticipate future scientific and technological breakthroughs with the potential to transform our world. Through GESDA's Science Breakthrough Radar, we can explore how science and technology will evolve over the next 5, 10, and 25 years, and identify broader trends for the future of science, such as how geopolitics affects the global movement of knowledge and technology. By using the radar, we can identify new opportunities to tackle global challenges from diverse fields, including artificial intelligence, ecology, engineering, human biology, language and communication, and mathematics. The radar combines anticipatory insights from philosophy, the social sciences, and humanities to help us understand how science and technology will transform who we are as humans, how we live together as societies, and how we relate to the planet through a complex emerging phenomenon we call planetarized humanity. We can explore how to navigate this coming world of unprecedented global connectedness, increasing technological capabilities, and urgent environmental challenges in order to build our future together. Dive into the 2026 GESDA Science Breakthrough Radar. Learn more and contribute to what's ahead.
It's beautiful to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. One of the interesting features of our times is the speed with which new technological developments come our way. In only 3 years, generative AI has been able to generate text, then images, then movies. Now agents come that will take autonomous decisions, do stuff on their own. A few years back, mRNA vaccines for the first time allowed us to make vaccines with speed that we've never seen before. Autonomous drones now can fly without pilots, on their own, using either GPS or simply visual recognition, fly through forests, avoiding the trees. All of these technologies have amazing potential, but also challenges. that autonomous drone can be asked to fly through the forest, either to find people who have been lost in the wilderness, or perhaps to find enemy soldiers, and, as they so nicely say in the military field, neutralize them. So challenges are abounding, and more arrive. Would it not be nice if there was a way to be briefed in advance about the breakthroughs that are around the corner, rather than just have them pop upon us? Now, for many of these developments, that's actually possible. It is possible to be on top of the game rather than running after the ball. And that is because for most technological developments, these things are years in the making, if not decades. The people working on these things, the experts, they have a good idea, a good feel for what's cooking in the labs and when these things will actually come onto the streets. This is exactly what the radar is trying to do. It tries to capture the collective intelligence of scientific communities to give us a glimpse into potential possible futures. My goal this morning, this afternoon, morning in some other places of the world, it's always morning somewhere, is to introduce you to the radar first, but more importantly, to some of the scientists behind it. And this session is only a teaser. We won't be able to go into much detail, but we have 10 anticipatory briefings over the next 3 days in Auditorium C, where experts who have worked on these predictions, on these visions, these anticipations, will give you deep dives. And so I invite you to go and visit them. Do I control the slides? Next slide, please. Let's see what happens. We shall continue without slides. Doesn't matter. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Very good. Now you can have this one.
Thank you.
This is what the radar looks like. It looks like a radar. That's intentional. And like on a real radar, you see these dots. Just like on a real radar, you're supposed to pay attention to these dots. Each of these dots is an area of emerging science where a bunch of expert scientists have tried to figure out what could be coming our ways in the next 5, 10, 25 years. Now, the sum is more than the whole of its part. The whole is more than the sum of its part because these individual developments can have huge impacts, not only on the other fields on the radar, but on the whole thing, on us as individuals, on us as societies, even on us as planet Earth. Because, as you know, this concept of, it's just a global village, this concept of, the planet is just one big ship, well, it's true. These individual things, whether it's Gen AI or whether it's autonomous drones, will affect the whole planet, will affect us all. Geopolitics might be fragmented, but we are in the same boat. And this is this concept of planetized humanity. We are actually just one planet. Because of this complexity, we also enrich these thematic views into the future with what we call lenses, or transdisciplinary approaches, looking at the science of science, at the philosophy, at the geopolitics. How will these things affect the future? We think we heard from Magdalena Skipper a very good example of how this meta-level analysis is extremely important for us to be able to think about the future. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, for each one of these dots, there's a whole bunch of science and a whole bunch of scientists behind them. And I have the privilege of being joined this afternoon by 3 of the chairs of these committees. To my left, Professor Mercedes Maroto-Valer, professor at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, and she's chair of the Energy Engineering Committee. Next, we have Christian Happi. He's professor at Redeemers University in Ede, Nigeria, and he's chair of the Pathogen Biology Committee. Last but not least, at the end of the table, Jennifer Culbertson, professor at the University of Edinburgh and chair of the Language and Communication Committee. Let me start with you, Mercedes. Why don't you start by telling us why do we need an anticipation committee on energy engineering?
Thank you. Well, first I want to say I'm delighted to be here, so many thanks for the invitation. And I do have a role in the UK where I'm the UKRI Industrial Decarbonisation Champion, where my role is more as a technology diplomat. So really delighted to be part of these discussions. Going to your question in terms of why we need this in energy engineering, well, when we look at the global energy landscape, you don't have to look too far to realize we are going through profound challenges and transformations. And these transformations, they are not only because of climate change imperatives, but for those skeptics that are growing in climate change, I will also say that going through this energy transformation is also going to be better for a more fair and equitable society. So we need to keep that in mind. And we know population is going to grow. Over the next 20, 30, 50 years, we're going to be looking over 9 billion people in the world. So if you look now in terms of energy, our current energy systems that we have been using for the last 300 years, we actually have to transform them in the next 30 years. So it's a significant step change that we have to do. It's going to be one that is going to require a lot of transformation. It's going to require significant investment. You probably have seen in some cases this 2% GDP. But it's also, and we shouldn't forget this, it's also going to require a lot of ingenuity and courage. And I think it's because we look at this, it's not really a burden, this energy transformation. It's really, I would say, it's actually a renaissance in terms of how we see energy. And within that is why it's so important the role of science, the role of research, the role of innovation going forward. We need to make sure that we put all this thinking together to be able to actually triple our renewable energy by 2030, double in energy efficiency by 2030. But if you look 2050, we probably are looking at 10 times as much renewables as we have nowadays. So all these challenges that are complex and multifaceted will require breakthroughs, and this is where the anticipatory agenda can guide us in the way forward.
So what does this committee look like? So how many people are on it? How do you select them? How do you run them? I mean, herding cats is more like more easy than running scientists. How do you come to consensus?
Well, yes, that's a really good point. I think I want to start maybe by reflecting on some of the messages that we heard already around this diversity and inclusivity, and those are two key principles in terms of how these groups come together. And if we look at the point of diversity, this is about diversity of thoughts, diversity of discipline, diversity of geographies, and all that is considered in terms of putting these groups together. Within the group that I chair, we have 8 world experts that I was delighted to have on board. I couldn't believe the names that we were able to get there, but also representing 3 different continents, and also representing a wide range of disciplines across. So we start with the diversity. That is always a good place to start, and you need to ensure inclusivity in the thinking and the discussions. And that's why, with the huge experience from the GESDA team, you have very structured discussions that they are very much forward-looking in terms of what is going to happen, what needs to happen, what areas of science, engineering, disciplines in general are coming across, and what we need for actually meet targets in terms of renewables, climate change, or any other targets that you may have in the energy landscape. So it's really starting with a diverse group, making sure that you have the right working methods to be inclusive. And absolutely, there are times where the discussions I never thought we were going to agree, but that's absolutely fine. I mean, at some points I remember we agree to disagree, because there were all these different thoughts coming together. And then what was fantastic is really the work from GESDA in terms of pulling a document together, reflecting all the conversations where, again, all the committee members have the opportunity to reflect, discuss, did we actually approve the final document?
Thank you. So maybe, and I'm looking at the time, very succinctly, you can tell us a little bit what you have come up with, your team and you?
Yes, so this is one of the subfields within the broader discussions that we have. And this is, I think, particularly relevant because one of the most difficult sectors to decarbonize or defossilize, depending how you look at that, is actually the maritime and the shipping. Aviation. So all those sectors are very difficult to decarbonize. So what we need here, or defossilize, remove the carbon that they are using from fossil sources. So this is where we come with this alternative sustainable and chemicals. We do this in a 5, 10, and 25-year horizon, and that actually is very well timed with a number of mandates that are coming globally. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the challenge, if you look at sustainable aviation fuels, right now we are producing less than 0.1% of what we need by 2050. So we are looking in the order of 50 to 70,000 new facilities that will have to come in place to be able to achieve those mandates. So the 5 years, starting that, we very quickly is looking in terms of how power to fuels, how you can have renewable energy and convert it into fuels and chemicals, the PTX that is known for, can actually take novel materials, novel processes on board. But really also very important, going back to the point of equity, one actually where we are not looking at the rare or precious metals that actually bring more complexity. Moving then to the 10-year horizon, we look in terms of how we're going to need to continue using carbon, but carbon that is from biogenic sources or non-fossil carbon. And this is when technologies around direct air capture can actually have a significant leapfrog in terms of getting these sustainable fuels and chemicals. And then when you look farther afield in this 25 years horizon and you start putting all this together, is when then you start really getting the technology, the process, the materials, the feedstocks, to start getting these sustainable aviation fuels that I say is a huge demand for. So this was really kind of the process building up in terms of how innovation breakthroughs will take us all the way from the 5 to the 10 to the 25 years.
Thank you very much. Christian, Jenny, you will actually chair one of these sessions upstairs, so I'm not going to steal your thunder, but perhaps just 1 or 2 questions to each of you. Jenny, why do we need an anticipatory committee on language and communication?
Well, I think in part it's because right now the field is moving probably as fast as it ever has. So everyone in the room will be aware of the recent amazing advances in large language models that are propelling AI. But that's not all there is to linguistics. So thinking about language and communication in terms of understanding what it means to speak a language, what it means to have the capacity to learn a language. These things are increasingly important as we think about multilingualism more. But I also think it's important for us to think about communication beyond humans. So now we're thinking about communication in terms of how AIs do it, but we should also be thinking about communication in terms of how animals do it. So it's really important to understand what are the parallels between human language and animal communication systems. And a lot of breakthroughs, both in terms of new data and new analysis methods, are coming down the pipeline that I think will open up a lot of new horizons in our understanding of communication with animals.
Perhaps one example, one cool thing that might come our way sometime in the future?
Sure. So I wanted to say that I think everyone in the room is probably aware that there are threats to biological diversity, but maybe not as many people are aware that there are actually also a lot of threats to linguistic diversity. So many languages that are minoritized languages, indigenous languages, are under threat right now. And in the next 50 years, we may see a lot of them go if we don't do anything about it. But I actually think now is we have a really great opportunity to kind of stem that loss. So we need to understand what makes these languages important. We need to understand how they drive education and economic outcomes. So I think that's something everyone in this room should be aware of, that is a problem that we need to start tackling now.
Thank you, Jenny. Christian, you're in charge of pathogen biology. I don't think I need to convince anybody that this is relevant, but perhaps you give us one example of something that's particularly exciting or perhaps particularly worrisome that might come our way in that general field?
Yeah, I do think that it goes without saying that we are, as human species, in danger because we are actually at the risk of being extincted by pathogens, as you understand. So, and we are coming from COVID, but the question is, have we really learned a lot from that pandemic? And it is clear, that in the next 10 years, I think study proof that, there will be, if there will be another pandemic, but then the question is, how can we prevent that from happening? And the figures are staggering. We're talking about 10, 15 million, people dying, if things are not done within now 10 years. And this factor in the pandemic, then we should be actually escalating those numbers. So the question is, how do we prevent this from happening? And do we really learn from what happened in 2020? The answer is no. But then there's also an opportunity here, for instance, to use science, and accelerate, for instance, the development of countermeasures. One of the major things that, that I believe that we should be able to use science to understand is actually, what really causes pathogen to infect us. We don't know. The reality is they are circulating there, but some do infect us, some will not infect us. So then we need to understand exactly what infectivity is. What happens when some people get infected, some will die no matter what you do because the way they respond to infections. So the question is, why that paradigm? Can we understand the biology, in human and also the biology of infectivity? And I think at this point, we are at a point where there's several and huge advances in science, where we know it used to take such a long time to understand, how the body responds, how pathogen, the biology of pathogen. But today, with novel technology like synthetic biology, with things like using AI as model to understand, to understand how cell functions, so we can accelerate this, and also develop countermeasures. I think one thing that we could see that could actually change the paradigm is actually a combination of bringing together synthetic biology, understanding infectivity, and then AI, for instance, to accelerate, the development, not only understanding, how we should respond, but also accelerating the development of countermeasures. We're talking about diagnostic drugs and then vaccines.
Thank you. So this is the 5th generation of the radar. Like every proud parent, I feel it's getting more beautiful every day, every year. But also, if you look objectively, we have an increasing number of scientists being involved, the increasing quality of the scientists. Now, they all do this pro bono. They do this intrinsically motivated. We could not pay for this work. It would be completely impossible. But it raises the question, why do you spend your time doing this? I mean, what possessed you to volunteer your time for this work? First Christian and then Mercedes and Jenny.
Yeah, I think I would say that I didn't know much about GESDA until I got a mail from Sophie, and I was really puzzled. What is this organization talking about science diplomacy? As a scientist, what is my business with diplomacy and then anticipatory? But I do think that she was tough. I mean, she requested for a time to have a discussion, a virtual call, because I was hesitant. I think I was tending to say, no, I don't think I want to lead, chair this committee. But then she insisted. And we had this conversation, and I can tell you I came out of it so rich and so educated, because she could make me see the value of doing this. Because now I understand as a scientist that it's good to do the work that we do, but it's actually good to engage those that are actually setting the policies, and then those that will help, to share the knowledge in a way that people can absorb this ahead of time. We realize that we do a lot of, science is moving so fast, but then the reality is that those that are supposed to harness that knowledge to shape policies and actually to use that to guide the necessary, to fund actually even the science, are often not at the same pace with science. And I think a platform like this one, where you're saying, let's think about what will happen in the next 25 years, and let's start engaging people now, those who in the next 25 years will make those decisions, actually, is very important. I think I learned that, and then through, our committee discussing and then setting up, identifying these key priorities, I think that for me, I became a real passionate advocate for this platform, because I've learned a lot. And I think that that's the way we should be doing things. As scientists, we should stop being in our lab, but actually start engaging, those that are out there that will take the knowledge and then make the necessary policies, or prepare governments, or prepare the civil society to accept those new technologies is very important.
Thank you. You just convinced me to keep my job. Jenny, Mercedes, anything to add?
That was very well put. Very well put. I also hadn't heard of GESDA, but I'm very glad that I now know about it. I think one of the reasons why I was interested in chairing the committee is that I think as scientists we don't often have the opportunity to just take the time and the space to think about what the future holds. We're kind of busy doing our everyday work, and to have the opportunity to actually talk to people who are really at the top of their field and think about what's coming down the line. I think that's a lovely opportunity. And in addition to that, I think all of us in all of our fields, we're very passionate about them, but we want other people to share that passion. We want other people to recognize the importance of our fields, and to do that, we need to think about how best to communicate that to other people, and how to link up with people for whom policies around those topics really matter. So it was a really great opportunity.
Mercedes?
So my experience is slightly different, because I already have had some interactions with GESDA before. So when I got the email and then set up the conversation with Martin and Sophie, I was quite easily to convince, I have to say. I was quite easy to be persuaded to actually chair this. But also it's not because of the values of GESDA, it's also in terms of this really whole systems thinking that we need, and how we really need to unpack all these different things and how they interact together to really make sure that we have those meaningful contributions and impact going forward. So I really felt privileged that I will be part of those discussions, and I will be able to hear from leading scientists around the world and challenge each other in terms of what we foresee as those breakthroughs coming. So yeah, it's a slightly different experience, but I think overall it's been really, really rewarding chairing the group.
Thank you. So I've mentioned the radar is 5 years old. We would be remiss if we didn't use our own technology on ourselves. The question is, of course, the future of the radar. And so we decided to have a high-level review to think first about the methodology. Is the way we think about the future the best one? We have a quite unique mechanisms to do that. That is quite distinct from other foresight methods. But then the second thing is, how can we make this radar even more useful? I personally believe that the radar should be on every decision maker's radar. These are things that will come our way, and we should be aware that they will be coming our way. How can we increase the utility of the fantastic work that you put in to make it even a better return on investment? So many of these review members are with us during the summit. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Welcome, and thanks for doing this work. And we hope to use this mechanisms or review to make an even better radar for the next summit next year. With this, I come to the end. The radar is a great thing, but knowing about possible futures cannot be a goal in itself. It needs to be a mean to the end, right? Knowing about possible futures should be what enables us to act, right? It gives us agency. This is not a library that we keep in the bottom of the shelf. This is a platform that generates discussion. And the whole point of having the summit is to bring people together so that we can have these discussions, that we can see how can we act upon potential futures so that what we decide to do today makes a better future for us and for our children. If you have ideas how to improve the radar, how to better improve action based on the radar, please see me over the summit, or my colleagues would be very happy to hear from you and pick up on your ideas. And with this, I close. Now I'm the announcer. We will break for coffee. We go back to the globe. Depending on your next session, you have 15 or 30 minutes. Those who would like to hear about science, diplomacy, and action in Auditorium B, that starts at 14:45. And the first anticipatory briefing on sleep, aging, and longevity, you get to break for 15 minutes longer. That session will start at 3 p.m. With this, I thank you for your attention, and I thank my colleagues for the fantastic work and for the discussion. Thank you very much.